If you're looking to retain more patients so you can grow a schedule full of cash pay patients, this episode is going to be perfect for you. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome all new listeners and welcome back to those who have heard my content in the past. If you're looking to thrive in cash PT, this episode is going to be fantastic. Before I go on to the episode, what is new, what is better? For those who've been listening, I just went on my second Disney cruise. It was amazing. Someone recently asked, what was your favorite part? I can genuinely say it was having my kids be excited about staying in the kids club, meaning there's a club inside the cruise that is just for kids, I think ages 4 to 12, and there's another one from like 16 to 18 or 19. And my kids would want to stay in the kids club over eating dinner, over going to the pool. And that to me was fantastic because ultimately I wanted them to absorb and love Disney. And leading up to the event or the cruise, we watched probably for 2 months, like all the Marvel movies, everything about them. And my kids were so obsessed with it. So finally we got on the Disney cruise. This kids club was Marvel themed. They had all these high-tech games that they can play, and they were loving every aspect of it. And as a parent, that was probably it was like, yes, we did it. So my wife and I got a little bit of quiet time. I had a couple drinks, some meals, so it was fantastic. Would I go again? Yes. Would I highly recommend it? Absolutely. And actually we put a down deposit for our next one. So fun fact, if you do a Disney cruise, if you put a refundable deposit down, you have an opportunity to take another cruise within 2 years and 10% off of that. So that was a no-brainer to me. So back to the grind. I am back preparing for my clinical elevation course. For those who registered, I'm excited to see you next week. Other than that, I'm back at it, living it. Excited about my fitness. I didn't work out a single day while on vacation, and it was good. My back was achy, my joints were achy, so it's good to take that forced time off. So back at it. And today I'm going to talk about 4 ways to retain patients, and this comes from a conversation I had with a colleague of mine, a friend of mine named Tony. He owns a PT practice out in Sacramento, and we were talking, and he said, what's your passion? Why are you so passionate about like cash PT? And it truly comes down to I'm not happy about where our profession is going. Not because of you or anybody that your colleagues, but it comes down to is what insurance companies are doing to the profession and forcing us to deliver substandard care, because it's not about, if you work for somebody who is going through this, it's not just their fault. It's there's a lot of aspects. They want to be able to keep the doors open, keep people employed, but they have to adapt to this. And so as insurance rates go down, they have to see more people. And what that does is when you see more people, it changes the standard of care. You can no longer provide, one-on-one quality care. You have to go down to 15-minute, 10-minute slots. And that's a move just to keep the doors open. It's not because they truly believe 10 minutes is better. And so as reimbursement drops, it's going to be a volume game. And what the consumer is going to do is think that is what physical therapy is. And I can't tell you how many patients come in our doors saying, gosh, I've been to 4 other places and I couldn't even get my physical therapist to talk to me for a few minutes because they were managing 5 other people. And when we ask, have you had physical therapy before? And they say yes, like that's not my definition of what physical therapy is and what it should be. And neither is it for you, because that's why you're listening to this podcast. But my goal here is to raise that standard and create opportunities for PTs all over the world to be able to do this. And whether you're employed or you have your own business, it really doesn't matter. If you're in network, out of network, and you work for somebody, that's fantastic. What you need to be able to do is not raise your clinical skills, it's raise everything else around that is unique to cash. And that's my passion, is showing people that clinical skills are important, and that's what gets really good outcomes in an insurance-based model. But in cash-based model, in addition to your clinical skills, that's just the base. Now you have to add a different element, and that's where my passion lies. Is I've been doing this for 10 years. I have a cash-based company, 50 employees, 3 locations, and I can tell you there's a big gap between insurance-based clinical skills and everything else. And so I think that as people branch out and do their own things, maybe that's what you're doing, or you're employed by a cash-based company or an in-network company, you have to be able to find out how do you separate yourselves from your colleagues so you can have financial opportunities, you can have business opportunities, or you want to grow your own practice. In either case, it helps the public understand what we do at a higher level, besides relying on clinical skills just to get CEUs. And there's something big to that. And so my passion is truly helping the profession long term by helping people like yourselves and really helping people understand what a customer needs and what a patient needs. And that's really what my passion is. And so we were just talking over, what my focus has been and where I'm going, and that's truly my passion. I think that today's conversation is about 4 ways to retain patients, and I'm talking about everything else besides insurance-based care. So I'm going to separate this into, when you are the things I'm going to share today are not what you're currently doing in insurance-based care or even in cash-based care. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm just going to add a framework, a shell, to help you understand how you can provide just a top-notch service one more level up. And being in a in a Disney cruise, I really took away, it's hard for me to shut off my brain in terms of service or how they run things, because as a business owner, I like to appreciate it and see what I can do to improve, my team and provide a really good service. And being at Disney, for those of you who've never done a cruise or never been on Disney, it's a premium service. You can get that same itinerary, that same room on a different ship would be probably 1/3 to half the cost. And so you go on Disney because you're going to go for the adventure, you're going to go for the experience, and to watch my kids have that experience and see them have everything taken care of. And they were one step ahead of my kids all the time. And my kids felt like it was a seamless, experience, and they really enjoyed it. And so when I was going through that process, I was like, gosh, what did you do? How did that work to make my kids so happy? When did you know to give them, an ice cream bar when they weren't even asking for it, but they were looking for it? How did you know that? All those little things. So I'm going to share how you can enhance that with your cash pay patients and retain them for longer. And the truth about this can work for insurance-based patients as well, but they won't have such a need as your cash pay patients. So number one, the first one is you really want to be yourself. You've worked 7 to 10 years to become a physical therapist. It could be a doctor of physical therapy, whatever it may be. And a lot of times you went through this systematic approach, you were organized, methodical, and you finally got to the destination, you got your white coat ceremony, and maybe in your clinic they call you Doctor or Dr. Samuel, whatever your name is. And that's fantastic, but what happens is that works in insurance-based care because you have a physician or an insurance company telling you have to go see this physical therapist. Now you're trying to prove yourself to the patient of who you are in your profession. Well, now that's kind of rebounded against us, because when you go cash-based physical therapy, these patients still want to see that top-down approach where it's medical provider, patient. Now, the problem is they want a certain level of service, and they want somebody to help them and be a guide and be a coach for them. They don't want somebody telling them what to do. They want somebody to partner with them. So instead of having that white coat syndrome where you're like, well, you have to listen to me and that's just how it runs. Patients nowadays can go to YouTube, they can go to Google, they can go to Yelp, they can go all these different platforms, and they understand that exists insurance-based model and traditional models. What they're looking for is something a little different, where they can get a little bit better customer service, where they can get someone who's readily available, who is actually a real human, not just a strict doctor, an uptight doctor. So one of the first things after mentoring thousands of cash-based physical therapists, I've realized that that white coat syndrome has this general appearance, and you can't let go of it because you work so hard to do it. And the patient is genuinely just wanting to learn about you. And patients leave because they can get that anywhere. And the reason that they're going to stay is because you're unique. Now, they don't get to see if you're unique if you always have this front that you're this Dr. Samuel, when you really just need to be like who you are. You just need to be Samuel. You just need to be the person who If you can bring out your personality, they're probably going to buy into you and your personality. They're going to stay with you. And if you can't let go, that patient will find themselves somewhere else where they can find another doctor somewhere else. And so one of the best ways to retain the patient is just be yourself. Let go of all of that you've worked for in terms of the appearance. What they want is somebody professional. You still maintain your professional atmosphere. You can still call yourself doctor if you want to. It doesn't matter. But ultimately, they're just looking for somebody to partner. They're not looking from a top-down perspective. They're just looking for somebody to partner with them side by side across their health span. So that's number one. Number two is, you have to remind and tell people what the destination is when you're working with them. And let me put this in terms of building a home. If you were to hire a contractor and you said, I would like a brand new home and I would like that for $400,000, and the contractor says, fantastic, we'll start up tomorrow. And you say, that's great. How long is this going to take so we understand where my current lease is up and be able to move in and do all these things? And they say, you know what? That's a great question. Let me get started next week and let me get back to you. And then we'll kind of go week by week to see where the progress is. And you as a buyer are like, wait a minute, that doesn't work very well because in 6 months my lease is up and I need to make sure that we're going to be able to do this. And they're like, let me just see how it goes. And now let me put that in terms of physical therapy. You are guilty of this. People you actually work with are guilty of this, or people you've worked with are guilty with this. They say, a patient comes in, I have knee pain. I'd like to be able to run again as soon as possible. How long is that going to take? And because you don't want to be wrong, you fear rejection or being wrong, and you're not normally wrong, so you don't give a forecast. You're like, in your head you're thinking, I really don't know. I have no idea how long it's going to take. So I'm just going to say, you know what? Let's just see how it goes. Next week, let's come back. Let me see how strong you get. That's a good one. Let me see how strong you get and we'll reassess. That'll be great. And the patient comes in, they're like, you're doing great. Can I run yet? Ooh, not yet. When can I run? I don't know. Let me see next week. And all you're doing is you're buying yourself time. And the reality is you didn't forecast, you didn't understand where the journey was and how long it was going to take to get there. Now, that's because you came from an insurance-based model where you had 12 visits. It was finite. So you were just hoping that they got better along those 12 visits. I know. I've seen you. I've seen you do that. And you're guilty of it. Now, how do we get away from that? In insurance space, that's acceptable because the patient is paying for the lowest cost and they have a fixed number of visits, so they know what they're coming for. In a cash pay setting, they're coming to you fresh. They don't plan on spending 12 visits with you. They want to plan on spending maybe 1 or 2. That's the majority of buyers. It is your responsibility to help them understand how long it's going to take to build a house. And you do have to work backwards. It's going to take me a month to do foundation and framing. And the next month is going to be drywall, plumbing, and electrical. And the last month is going to be fixtures and the roof. Now it's going to take me 3 months or whatever it is to build that home. Now the buyer understands, gosh, by month 2, we'll be able to see portions of it. And that's what a patient's going through when they're working with you. If they have knee pain, when can I start to jog? Well, it's going to be at week 10. That's when we're going to do introduction to running. Oh, what are we doing at week 6? That's when we're going to add load and build a little bit more strength. Oh, I see, and you've mapped that out. So if you haven't explained what that destination is and every point, how can they see themselves inside that home? They can't. And it's all because you're used to an insurance-based methodology where you take it week by week, you have a finite amount of time, and you just use up that time until it's done. That doesn't work in a cash-pay setting because that person's paying and they just want to know how long it's going to take to build the home. And if you haven't been able to let go of that white coat and you're so uptight and you haven't been able to loosen up, why would the patient stay with you? You're just like every other physical therapy who is in insurance, has that same personality, dry, uptight, very methodical, can't let go of themselves, and they take it week by week and there's no journey. Well, why would they stay with you? That's why they're going to leave. So let go, be yourself, still have the professionalism, show them what the destination and journey is like. Those are the first 2 things. The third one is, now that you've explained the destination, you are being genuinely who yourself is, and your patient now loves you, the thing you have to do now is you have to remind them of where they are every single week, every single session. Meaning, you said, hey, it's going to take you 12 weeks to get back to running. It's now week 6. We're transitioning to this. In the next 2 weeks, this is what we're doing. This week you might have a little flare-ups. Watch out where you're at. Next week we'll start with some pogos, some reactive drills, those type of things, and we'll initiate all these other things. Oh, that's fantastic. Now they can see themselves in that progression. But if you tell them where the journey is and don't tell them for weeks on end, you hit week 12, you're like, well, when are we doing this? You're like, oh, we've already been through that. They can't see themselves in it. They will find every excuse to leave. Why? Because it's not normal to pay for cash-based service. It's not the standard. It's not the norm for everyone around the country. And so because of that, it's an unproven concept. And so at every step they're trying to leave. They want to leave in their head because it costs money. So in order to provide value, you do have to, one, be yourself. Number two, tell them where the destination is. And number three, you have to remind them where they are systematically so they can see what they're paying for at every step of the way. And if you're not doing that, you're not being yourself, they're going to leave. They can get that service somewhere else. Number two, you're not telling them where the journey is. Well, every insurance-based PT takes that approach. Why not just go through insurance? Number three, you're reminding them. So if they're getting the outcomes that they need, you're reminding them, they know what the destination is and they love you. Why would they leave? They probably wouldn't. And all you're trying to do is give yourself the best chance and how to retain your patients. And that fourth one is very critical in that you've done all the work. Now you have to figure out and prepare, why would this patient leave me? Now, this comes down to every situation and every single patient. Let me explain. If you had a busy business owner and they travel a lot for work, why would they leave you? Because they go on travel quite a bit. Great. How do you solve that? How do you fix that? How do you address that? Well, maybe you tell them, I know you're going to be on business for the next 2 weeks. Let's do a quick 10 to 15 or 30-minute Zoom, or I'm going to give you a remote program. You're going to be adhering to that while I'm gone. Why do you do that? So that they don't drop in their outcomes. If you know they're going to be walking around, they're dealing with plantar fasciitis, maybe you have them do some inserts. You have extra intrinsic foot strengthening. You teach them better foot mechanics and how to walk properly, those type of things. Or you give them a home program that does hip strengthening, whatever it is, ultimately, so their outcomes don't drop and you are still successful because you're helping them build the home even when they have challenges. If you have a busy mom or dad who's on the go, maybe you tell them, you only give them exercises that are standing or in positions that they're frequently in, and they walk a lot. You wouldn't want to give them things on the ground to improve compliance. So you're always forecasting what are their current challenges and what would create a barrier to having success and leaving you. And if you're not preparing for that, ultimately they're going to find themselves somewhere else and you're going to think, well, gosh, it was just the patient, it was a bad patient, when in reality is you just didn't see what was about to hit, and it's only because you didn't think about that. And so you're always preparing of, why would this patient leave me? Why would they go somewhere else? Now, if you're being yourself, you've told them where the journey is and how long it's going to take to build the home, you're letting them know every step of the way where they are on that home building process, and you've thought about why they would leave you, and you're addressing those. Now you have a bulletproof approach to increase your clinical outcomes, to increase patient satisfaction and increase patient longevity. And again, these are not clinical skills that you need. You don't need more CEUs, don't need more clinical skills, especially in cash. If you stay in insurance-based care, it is clinical skills galore because there is no customer service. There is no customer satisfaction. Why? Because they're given cheap, low-cost sessions for a fixed amount, and you don't have to earn the customer service. You don't need them to do that. And it's only that the thing that changes in cash is their expectations. Wait a minute, why would I not do that same thing somewhere else for $20 copays? Now you're asking me to pay $150. How does that change? Well, your customer service has to change. And I'll tell you a story that happened at Disneyland while on my cruise. We were in Disney World at Epcot. And I was in a ride waiting for about 20-25 minutes, and my daughter looks up at me and she says, Dad, I have to go to the bathroom. I was like, oh my goodness, we're only like 10 minutes away from the front. You can't hold it. She says, no. So we have to make our way back through the line. It's hot, it's humid. I'm walking through, people are sweaty. And I get through the back end of the line, and I tell a staff member, I'm like, you know, my daughter has to go to the restroom. Is there any way that we can come back and meet my wife and my other two kids? And he says, absolutely. Once you finish, come back, have your wife take a selfie of where she is in line, and then you'll go to the front and meet them. I was like, gosh, that's genius. But that's one small thing of what Disney does exceptionally well. They'll figure out how to make it happen within reason for your requests. And all they did was they understood that people have these problems with kids. How do you find a workaround? And that's what you're trying to forecast. What are the problems that you have with your cash pay patients that make it easier for them to leave and not come back? And that's all you're doing. And if you're not obsessing about that, and if you're obsessing strictly about clinical skills and assuming that your clinical skills can't get them the outcome, they're leaving you for the other reasons because they genuinely can't connect with you. You haven't told them the journey, reminded them where they are, and you haven't thought about why they would leave you. Well, clinical skills will only get you so far. And those are the things that set Disney up for success and any cash PT for success. So whether you're in network and you rely on insurance, but you understand the only way to see patients for longer, 30 minutes, 45 minutes or an hour, is to go the cash pay model. Or if you want to see them for a longer period of time because you know that they genuinely need more than 12 sessions, you have to build that value using these 4 things that if you're going to take them beyond their first plan of care through their insurance and take them into a cash pay service or a wellness service or an injury prevention program, that you won't be able to use the same thing in insurance-based care as in cash. And these are the 4 things that I would highly recommend after mentoring thousands of cash pay PTs on how to retain cash pay patients for longer. And if you're interested in that and you're like, gosh, this is something I really want to dive into, maybe you're starting your own business, maybe you work in a cash PT setting, you want to set yourself from your peers, or you want to have more financial or business opportunities, this is the way to go. And if you're interested in learning more, you want to sign up for my 8-week Cash PT Clinical Elevation course. And you can go to my website, drchrisgarcia.com/elevation. And I walk you through how to do this inside your sessions, your evaluation process, all the nuances that you want in a mentor. And I've separated that over across 8 weeks so you can work with patients, navigate any challenges, bring them on a weekly basis. And it's a course really to help you with clinical reasoning, outcome, and patient satisfaction, customer service, so you can thrive in cash PT. And if you're struggling with clinical skill and you think that that's the real root of why you're not successful, I can tell you it's a blend, and it's not just your clinical skills. And if you want to be successful in cash PT, I highly recommend you start looking at other avenues besides clinical skill development. It's you and your expectation and how you're serving that customer, and that's the real root. So I hope that helps along your clinical journey to improve your patient outcomes and ultimately to thrive in clinical practice. I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care. Hi, if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification for my weekly tips on treating cash pay patients, becoming that expert in your community, and thriving in business. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.